Oh, more the fair's a very fine feast, good sport and eating's there for man or beast. We're all so proud, the biggest with the least, are riding off to more the fair. Our bridles bulge, our saddles a sack, we sit scruffed up, so tight as us can pack. But our old mare'll carry three upon her back, a riding off to more the fair. A scarot fair's feathers study to set, next mother of our heaven's dog to get. And after she, there's a room for me there yet, a riding off to more the fair. While we're a horseback riding in style, we pass poor neighbours crouching every mile, and feel so grand as can't forbear to smile, a riding off to more the fair. Leave squires ride by in coaches and pair, with men before to drive 'em everywhere. Back after they, I'd never want to stare, a riding off to more the fair. Leave knights pass on in coaches and four, with men behind to knock upon the door. They're welcome to them all, for me I'm sure, riding off to more the fair. Leave the lords roll past in coaches and six, with men to lift them every time they sticks. On such a like of things, my mind I'd never fix, a riding off to more the fair. Leave kings lay back in coaches and eight, with men to run and open every gate. For all them things, well, I'm willing long to wait, a riding off to more the fair. In all this world, for nothing I'd care, if peace and tide would last all round the year. Were we to jog a trot, a well, a three upon one mare, a riding off to more the fair.
My old man went out to the pub to have a pint or three. He uses Harry Bailey's place, close by the cemetery. The time drew on, as time it does, and people started leaving, and Jacko was the first to go to keep his wife from grieving. Now, Jacko was a little bit late, and worse the wear for liquor, so home he went through cemetery, that way the route was quicker. He hadn't gone but halfway cross, when he tumbled through his hurrying and landed in a fresh dug pit for tomorrow's early burying. Now, we'd had a lot of rain. The last few days did pour, and the bottom of the pit was wet and chilly furthermore. The time passed by and no help came. Poor Jacko got much wetter, and all his clothes got muddied up, which didn't make things better. "Help me out, I'm cold," he cried. "Help me out, I'm cold. Help me out, I'm cold," he cried. That's what I'd been told. But now 'twas father's time to leave, and strange as I may say, old father had a hankering to go the shortcut way. In through the iron gates he went, as homeward he did plod. He hadn't gone through very far, but hark! Could that be God? He made his way from whence it came. To him the voice seemed calling, and then he had to pull up sharp to stop hisself from falling. Down into the open grave he gazed, to where poor Jacko lay. He got there just in time, 'tis told, to hear poor Jacko say, "Help me out, I'm cold," he cried. "Help me out, I'm cold. Help me out, I'm cold," he cried. That's what I've been told. Quick as a flash, Dad's answer came, for all that it was worth. "Of course you're cold, you darn old fool. You've kicked off all your earth."
When I lived in Penzance town, I heard a shrill voice ringing all along the quay and down, early in the morning. And it was my Penzance Paul, hear her cry, come and buy. Who will buy my fresh mackerel? Who will buy my fresh mackerel? Then one day I asked of her, Polly dear, will you marry me? But she shook her golden hair, not to a poor fisherman, said she. And she was my Penzance Paul, hear her cry, come and buy. Who will buy my fresh mackerel? Who will buy my fresh mackerel? Then she met a rich young lad, gave her silks and jewelry. Up and down the promenade, there they went as gay as could be. And she was my Penzance Paul, hear her cry, come and buy. Who will buy my fresh mackerel? Who will buy my fresh mackerel? But when winter came along, with the cold wind blowing, off he went to seek the sun, left her early in the morning. And she was my Penzance Paul, hear her cry, come and buy. Who will buy my fresh mackerel? Who will buy my fresh mackerel? Then she wept and then she cried, threw off all her jewelry. Then she pined away and died, all among her finery. And she was my Penzance Paul, hear her cry, come and buy. Who will buy my fresh mackerel? Who will buy my fresh mackerel? Now when you're in Penzance town, you'll hear a faint voice ringing all along the quay and down, early in the morning. And it is my Penzance Paul, hear her cry, come and buy. Who will buy my fresh mackerel? Who will buy my fresh mackerel?
On a beautiful autumn evening, many years ago, a strange ship was seen passing by close to Cape Cornwall. What little wind there was blowing at the time blew from the land, but the ship seemed to take no advantage of it at all, and instead she drifted in with the tide in the general direction of Land's End. Local folk knew from her peculiar rig that she was manned by pirates, and her steerage was followed by many pairs of eyes gazing out to sea from the land in great trepidation. However, when the ship was no more than a couple of pistol shots offshore, a longboat was hastily lowered and manned, and a prisoner heavily shackled and with several pistols pointing at his head was forced into the boat and was rapidly rowed in towards the beach at Priest's Cove. When close to the shoreline, the prisoner was released from his shackles, and even though he fought valiantly, he was heavily outnumbered and was soon thrown into the sea to make his own way up onto the beach. Apparently, the tall, dark stranger who had been so unceremoniously discharged from his ship had been considered by the rest of the crew to be too evil even to serve on board a pirate ship, and the crew were only too glad to be rid of him. with wild shouts of delight. His former shipmates turned their longboat and headed back towards the ship, and when all were safely back on board, full sail was set, and the pirate ship soon sped out of sight over the horizon. The stranger soon settled in with the local community. Indeed, it wasn't long before he had married a widow woman and rented a small tenement farm at Tregeseal. After some time had passed, many local people became quite concerned at the large number of shipwrecks that were happening on the coastline at the boundary of the stranger's farm. It only became known later what had been happening. For when everybody else were in their beds or working night core at the mines, the stranger would make his way down to the coast, where he would tether his horse's neck to one of its forelegs. The strange movements of a lantern tied around its neck as the horse moved to and fro seemed to unsuspecting shipping like the stern lights of a ship, and thinking that they had clear passage, the doomed ships would pile up onto the rocks close by to the stranger's farmland, where he made a handsome living from the wreckage. The dark stranger was never ever short of money. He lived a long life and became very rich through his ill-gotten gains. Eventually, the time came, as it does for all of us, for the stranger to die. It was at the time of barley harvest, when two labourers were busy mowing in a field below the house and close to the cliffs. It was a beautiful day, and there was hardly a breath of wind to stir the corn. But suddenly, quite a chilling breeze passed by them, and they heard a hollow voice calling out, "The hour has come, but the man is not come. The hour has come, but the man is not come." It seemed to be carried in on the breeze from the direction of the sea. The men were quite startled by it, and on looking out to sea, they saw a large, black, square-rigged ship with all sails set, speeding in towards them against the wind and the tide, and with no crew at all to be seen on board her. The sky around the ship became as dark as night as she moved closer in towards the shore until only her topsails were seen visible above the cliff tops. The darkness surrounding the ship quickly took the form of an ominous storm cloud, shaped almost like a fist, with an accusing finger pointing to and reaching out towards the pirate wrecker's farmhouse. The sun shone brilliantly over all the country except upon the wrecker's farmhouse, which soon became wrapped in the deep shadow of the cloud. The labourers, by now in absolute terror, ran off towards St. Just Churchtown to get as far away as possible from this frightening scene. Meanwhile, the dying wrecker was in a state of agony, and his voice could be heard for quite some distance around the farmhouse. "Help! Help me! Help! Save me from the devil and those sailors tearing me to pieces with their bloody hands! Help! Help! Help me!" A doctor and two brave fishermen were the only other persons in the house, and they later recalled how, at times, the wrecker's bedroom was as dark as night. Yet, at other times, it was so intensely bright that they could see every hair on the wrecker's head standing up on end and his eyes popping out like organ stops as he stared in absolute terror ahead of him. Although quite some distance from the shore, the sound of the sea could be heard lapping around the foot of the wrecker's bed, and thunderous waves were heard breaking against the outer walls of the farmhouse. The doctor sent for one of the local parsons that he knew, who was renowned for his power of driving away evil spirits. Using all the powers at his disposal, the parson was able to see the devil in the wrecker's bedroom. And try as he might, all that the parson seemed able to do was to reduce the devil to the size of a fly. It seemed impossible to get rid of that evil spirit. Then, at last, there was a fearful crash of thunder and a blaze of the intensest lightning, the house appeared to be on fire, and its very foundations shook, as though the surrounding area was in the middle of an earthquake. Everybody rushed in terror from the farmhouse, leaving the dying wrecker to his fate. The storm grew in violence, and the cloud that had come in with the black ship suffered such turbulence that it seemed as though it might burst at any moment. Then, all at once, the cloud became much smaller, and suddenly, with the blast of a whirlwind, it passed from the farmhouse back to the ship, and she was impelled amongst the flashes of lightning and loud thunderclaps away over the horizon. The area around the farmhouse at Tregeseal once again returned to an air of universal calm. The dead body of the pirate wrecker, however, lay a ghastly spectacle, its eyes expanded and the mouth half open, still retaining the aspect of its last mortal terror. As everyone had hated him, it was thought desirable to remove his corpse as quickly as possible away from the sight of man. A rough coffin was hastily made and the body placed within its boards. They say that the coffin was carried to the churchyard, but that it seemed too light to have contained the body, even though they knew that it was there within. The procession was followed by one solitary black pig. Nobody knew where it came from, or where it disappeared to afterwards. And when the procession had reached the church stile, a storm similar to the one that had accompanied the pirate wrecker's death came on. It was so intense that the bearers of the coffin were forced to leave it by the church stile, while they themselves took shelter in the church for their own safety. The storm lasted quite some considerable time and raged too with much violence, and the area around once again was as dark as night as the storm continued. A sudden blaze of light, more intense than any that had been seen before, heralded the end of the storm. And when it seemed safe enough to continue with the burial, the bearers left the church to collect the coffin from where they had so hastily deposited it, only to find that all that was left outside the church stile were the handles and the nails that had been used to rapidly construct the coffin to carry away the body of the late, lamented pirate wrecker.
Mar buzz, you o holla now, do squarth mar grom, how do dross mar squeeth, och how da grow mar dom. David is you, pris ma fifth res mones pel, at the worth how broger hebi gwell. Purig her the fahes da druler cho they naus, Purig clee war garn garrow and mordono mar bows. Purig wethaf corn may potreg he penyar, Purig dans ye fan hen ferry war. Mar buzz, you o holla now, do squarth mar grom, how do dross mar squeeth, och how da grow mar dom. David is you, pris ma fifth res mones pel, the worth how broger hebi gwell. Panna safauth heliu in blue pew as mir, a miaula furia a drefin kentir. They well as war to earth, they drefkin hraf, I've carrick war garrick I saw. Mar buzz, you a holla now, do squarth mar grom, how do dross mar squeef, och how da grow mar dom. David is young pries, ma fifth res mones pal, the worth how broger heb he gwell. How bro ro them lan was athnel, bin puple fell a wark hem in a bell. How bro what he since half out here, ha gortos a vel a vab gwir. How bro ro them lan was athnel, bin puple fell a wark hem in a bell. How bro what he since half out here, ha gortos a vel a vab gwir. Kerno, ha gortos a vel a vab gwir. The full moon shone out super bright on a Saturday. The maidens all knew they shouldn't be there. They'd all been warned of the curse of the pipers. 19 maidens, they just didn't care. They danced, they danced it all around. They danced to the tune of the piper's sound. The maidens were dancing ever so merrily, quite unawares of two shadows that stirred. And soon they were joined by a young pair of pipers, playing such tunes as they'd never heard. They danced, they danced it all around. They danced to the tune of the piper's sound. Nobody noticed the storm clouds a-gathering. The pipers played tunes so merry and gay. No one had heard the church bells at midnight tolling the start of the Sabbath day. They danced, they danced it all around. They danced to the tune of the piper's sound. The maidens were dancing faster and faster under the spell of the piper's drones, when all at once there came a flash of lightning. 19 maidens were turned into stones. They danced, they danced it all around. They danced to the tune of the piper's sound. The pipers themselves took flight from the tragedy as fast as their legs would take them away. But they were turned to stones by another flash of lightning, all because they danced on the Sabbath day. They danced, they danced it all around. They danced to the tune of the piper's sound. So be wary, young maidens, heed well this warning. Hearken intently to what I say. You'll not be struck down by the curse of the pipers if you never ever dance on the Sabbath day. They danced, they danced it all around. They danced to the tune of the piper's sound. They danced, they danced it all around. They danced to the tune of the piper's sound. I'll sing ye a song, a good song of the sea, to me way, hey, below and down. Perhaps you will join in the chorus with me. Give me some time to blow the man down. Yes, give me some time to blow the man down. As I was a-walking down Killigrew Street, to me way, hey, blow the man down. A saucy young bobby I chanced for to meet. Give me some time to blow the man down. Yes, give me some time to blow the man down. Says he, you're a smuggler, and that I can see. To me way, hey, blow the man down. So off to the bodmin you go, Jack, with me. Give me some time to blow the man down. Yes, give me some time to blow the man down. Your lugger is lying out there by the point. Anyway, hey, blow the man down. You'll see that I'll soon put your nose out of joint. Give me some time to blow the man down. Yes, give me some time to blow the man down. Says I, you young loony, you think 'tis a lark to me way, hey, below the man down. There is my clipper, her name's Cutty Sark. Give me some time to blow the man down. Yes, give me some time to blow the man down. They give me 3 months in the clink of the town to be way, hey, blow the man down. There's gruffing that bobby and blowing him down. Give me some time to blow the man down. Yes, give me some time to blow the man down.